Welcome back to the DXB Today Weekly Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to keep you informed and reassured with stories from across the city. We began by exploring some of the latest brands that have entered the Dubai scene. In the studio, we were joined by Aby Sam Thomas, Editor-in-Chief of Inc. Arabia, to explain what the past few weeks have looked like for businesses across the region.
Markets rise, markets fall. Economies do similar things. They are cyclical in many ways. Through the challenges that businesses, especially the businesses that you're talking to on a daily basis at the moment, try and sort of put us into context, the challenges they are facing at the moment and how they're looking to overcome them.
I think it's safe to say that it has been a bit of an unsettling period for all of us, right? And I think this is something that none of us ever expected to see. This is not an environment we are used to. And I think because of that, the first response has been sort of like recalibration. And now we're figuring out, okay, this is how we respond, this is how we react. And that's what we have been seeing in the business space. Yes, the first few weeks first few days, let me put it that way, were a bit about like, okay, how do we go from here? Now I'm seeing structured responses. Now I'm seeing, rewiring cash flows, figuring out supply chains. And like Ash already mentioned, community coming together. It's really heartening to see, and this is what we need in this community at this point in time. It is going back to the fundamentals. Let's go back to the core of what makes business work. And yeah, we have to, as people say, this too shall pass. Yeah. You just need to, double down on your conviction on why you chose to start up here.
Exactly, this is what we've been discussing today as well. Like, community matters now more than ever to businesses that have opened here in Dubai. Why do you think that is happening? It's nice to see people showing up for their community restaurants, trying their local brands that have opened and established themselves here in Dubai. Because the thing is, people came here for a dream, and that dream is still going on and it's happening. But now you get to see even restaurants helping each other in this way, right? So what's your take on that? How are people navigating and maneuvering in these times?
So one of the things that we at Inc. Arabia actually started out was like this list of initiatives that we were seeing like businesses do to support other businesses. And in the beginning, it was just like one initiative. And we thought, okay, cool, that's nice. But what has happened over the last week, I would say, that list has been like expanding on a daily basis. Like each day we are adding 2 or 3 initiatives of businesses showing up to support other businesses. And this is, tangible support in so many different ways. It is like Talabat, for instance, opening up its cloud kitchen spaces. Yes. Amazing thing that they're doing for so many F&B players out there. There's a startup called Alan, a fintech company that has like literally committed 3 million dirhams for the community. So that's like they're putting it for SMEs to pay their, their due bills, their seva bills, or whatever it is. But again, these are like initiatives that are saying that we are not in it for just ourselves.
Exactly.
We realize this is an ecosystem that needs to support and collaborate with each other if we are to succeed, if we are to move forward. Yeah. And again, it's really, really heartening to see.
Next, we had a chat with Nivetha Dayanand, Assistant Business Editor at Gulf News, about how local food chains are holding up.
There's been some conversation around food and retail supplies lately, so let's get a clear picture on where we're at. Let's ask our guest co-host, Nivetha Dayanand, who is the Assistant Business Editor at Gulf News, but of course has been reading a lot about all things retail, and more specifically food security. And I don't mean just in the last couple of weeks. You've obviously been focusing on it for quite some time. Now, before we get on to of the extraordinary amount of work that's gone into food security and investment as well along the way. Give us your sort of take on where we're at the moment, given these challenging times and the pressure that's been put onto the supermarkets, but also the suppliers in the last few weeks. What's the scene look like out there at the moment?
Resilience is the word that I'm going to be using quite some time in this conversation. So UAE food supply is resilient, obviously, thanks to its advanced logistics, investment in technology, and also public-private partnership that's been around for a very long time. Now, UAE is dynamic in the sense it has two-part approach, one with the retailers and one with the consumers.
Yeah.
With the retailers, it's in constant touch, asking them how we can help, how to facilitate. On the consumer end, they have intensified the inspections. Now, the Minister of Economy, Abdullah bin Mari himself, he has been on a number of these inspections to make sure that the shelves are stocked, and he has reassured the residents that the UAE is well equipped to navigate these disruptions, obviously without having a repercussion in the market. So that's quite reassuring.
And Nivetha, you said that you're going to be using the word resilience quite a bit throughout this conversation. So my question to you is, what are some real life examples that you've seen of this kind of resilience that makes us believe that the system actually works?
Right, so I've been speaking to a lot of retailers and the consensus is that the UAE has been navigating this headwind more calmly without a sense of anxiety. I have a few examples of the retailers that I spoke to. Lulu, for example, has shipped over 15,000 tons of perishable and non-perishable goods from India via air cargo, charter flights and shipping from India. And then moving on to Majid Al Futtaim, they have had diverse import supply chain, and they have also invested in regional supply and local supply, which is now coming to fruition. Spinneys has also been exploring a number of supply routes from Khor Fakkan to the Green Corridor in Oman, and they're also talking to European partners to bring food from London on road. Now, all of these are very good examples, and this is just the three examples on top of my mind. And every single retailer has had faith in the government, and they know that they're going to facilitate this for them.
And this is what we've been seeing from the leadership as well. They've been telling everyone in the country that food security is a red line, that they will not negotiate, and it's something that it's always going to be there and available for everybody. For the viewers that are watching that started stockpiling, this is a word that's been going around. A lot of people went to buy everything and stockpile at home, which is another issue. Everyone they've been telling the people, do not stockpile. We have enough of everything in the country. So can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, I agree. Panic buying was something that that was going around for quite some time when these escalations started. And me being a journalist, I want to go on ground and check what the ground reality is. And so I went to these retail outlets to not just speak to the retailers, like I mentioned, but also speak to the consumers.
Yes.
And ask them if they're actually panic buying and if they're stocking up. And the answer was no. I did not speak to just one person. I spoke to several of them, and they said, we are confident, and it was evident, right? And there are enough stocks on the shelves, and they have faith in the government and how proactive they've been. And also, the UAE government has done over 8,000 inspections since February 28th, and they have a committee called National Crisis and Emergency Committee who is constantly in touch with these importers and suppliers, having conversations, and they've held over 35 meetings with them to make sure that there are enough stocks in the shelves.
Backing one another is ultimately what keeps the wider community moving forward. Here are some initiatives that are helping local and small businesses stay in action. The realities of distance learning can be challenging for both students and parents. News personality Georgia Tolley joined us to share her experiences.
I know that you have been posting honestly about all things distant learning and parenting during these challenging times, but for those with kids out there, I'm sure, who will be able to understand, but equally for those out there that don't have kids, what's the reality of distance learning at the moment?
I think it's pretty tricky, and that's a bit of an understatement. I think most parents are finding it almost impossible, trying to juggle work and then, teach their children. And ultimately, while many of the lessons might be live, with the younger ones especially, they won't just sit in front of a screen, they won't just concentrate. And so you're having to constantly oversee what they're doing. And I think every parent starts the day feeling positive and determined that they are going to, bring light and love into the whole process. By the end of the day, you're a bit of a sort of gibbering, shaking wreck. And I have to go and have a quiet lie down every single day just to sort of decompress from the whole process.
Well, Georgia, we spoke about how kids right now are going back to distant learning midway through the semester. A lot of them are facing university exams or school exams and graduating this year as well. How has that impacted? Did you see any challenges within the children's, educational kind of experience with it being so sudden and so close to the end of the year?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, I'm lucky my children aren't taking exams this year, but anyone who's, coming up to sort of 15 or 16 or heading towards those A-level and IB exams, and obviously the Indian exams as well, they have been cancelled. We just heard literally in the last few days that the IB exam is going to be cancelled, and instead the children are going to be assessed on their coursework. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge change. And can you imagine if you've been, as a student, as a child, you've been building up towards these exams, and then all of a sudden to have them sort of taken away. On one level, I bet they're thrilled because you don't have to take the exams. But on the other, how are you going to be certain that you're going to be assessed in the same way when you go on to universities on the international
Especially
stage?
because they're actually relying on the exams to up their grades as well.
Yes, exactly. I think some people kind of flunk their mocks maybe because they don't think it's that big a deal, and for some people they're sort of mock exams in the moment when they're like, actually I really need to buckle down now. So if your grades are going to be based on those or on coursework that maybe you didn't really concentrate on, then that's going to completely potentially change your future because you're missing out on that opportunity to prove yourself in an exam.
So as Tom mentioned earlier, this is our second time really of doing distance learning. Is there anything that surprised you this time round? Positives maybe, or is it all negative?
I wish I could come up with a positive for you. It was obviously a lot was learned during COVID. When we first kicked off in COVID, it was a nightmare. No one knew how to use Zoom. None of us really knew what Zoom was. It was quite a new platform for lots of people. And then obviously the conflict started quite suddenly, and there was this sudden transition. And I would say that the first week was a bit of a nightmare, to say the least. There weren't any live lessons, there wasn't a great deal of interaction. And to be fair, everyone was slightly reeling with the situation at the moment. Then we had the 2-week break, which was brought forward, thank goodness. So they had 2 weeks of spring holiday. And then we came back and, I have to be fair, there has been a real change. There are a lot more live lessons. I would suggest that every lesson could be live and that would have a huge impact. And so far that hasn't been the case, but you can see the situation evolving. The schools, do stay in touch with us.
If you're a parent struggling to find a balance between work and supporting your child's education, here are the top 3 platforms helping families navigate distance learning. creative industry is struggling right now. So we spoke to Shelley Frost, the founder and director of The Fridge, to find out how she's helping artists come together.
How important is it during these times, like when people are also like looking for stability, to have, you know, like The Fridge in a community?
It was incredible. A couple of weeks ago, we had an open mic for the first time since Eid. And we had 30 people performing on stage that came out in full force, and it was extraordinary. We speak of uncertain times, but the day was particularly uncertain because we had the full tornado warning and massive rains. So I think that's an indication of the absolute desire for people to come out. And open mic is on a monthly basis and is an incredible space for the creative community to come out. Also for the full family, because there's a section in the beginning from 6:30 to 7:30 for kids, and the talent in that age group from the young through to school leaving is really quite humbling.
Oh wow!
And you said so we're looking at these type of spaces and the creative spaces and the communities, and we're wondering, why do people gravitate towards them so easily? Like, people outside of the creative community always end up being in those communities and enjoying the shows, but why is that?
We all seek that human connection, and we seek to hear and be heard and to have an exchange that takes us beyond the basic exchanges of a day to day. I think that ultimately within all of us we seek an experience that elevates and puts us in touch with something that can't just be called a name or can't just be transacted. It's to have an experience that goes beyond that. So within The Fridge, it's living through the music of an extraordinary young artist or experienced artist that is sharing their craft, their feelings, and I think we're always surprised, aren't we? We'll continue to always be surprised at how much we recognize in one another, and we seem to always need to be reminded and like to be reminded of that.
You mentioned there, 18 years that The Fridge has been around since opening the doors, the fridge door, and then growing ever since. Therefore, you've ridden a few challenges and hurdles during that time. How important has continuity been to the community feel, the community atmosphere, not just from a customer, from a client's point of view, but also from an artist's point of view, the ability to continue to perform?
It means everything, that continuity and that lifeline, and not to have a sense that one is completely sidelined or forgotten during this time. It becomes interestingly more essential during difficult times, and we've seen that every single time. And I think we see that feeling globally, that people turn toward the arts to find solace, to find expression, to find a connection that we spoke of at a time where there is uncertainty or question. So the continuity is extraordinary, and that behind the scenes takes a lot of perseverance, but that perseverance is worth it in being able to offer that stability of a space that through thick and thin, rain or shine, is there.
Yeah.
If you want to find out how to support your local community, check out these 3 initiatives. More than ever, we all need to find time to switch off, reset, and recharge. And we found 3 ways to help your mind, body, and soul. A little reset goes a long way. And that's this week's wrap-up. Join us next week as we continue to bring you community and cultural stories that keep Dubai spirit strong. I'm Niki Samnani, and that was your DXB Today Weekly Roundup.